Hi, welcome to the section on displaying data graphically. And there are a lot of methods to display data graphically, but we're just going to focus on histograms, partly for the sake of time, but those are the most important ones because they give us an idea of what the distribution of the data looks like. Histograms are only for quantitative data. We're not focusing on qualitative data. For qualitative data, you just do something like a pie chart or a bar graph, and you know how to do that, so we're going to skip that. Some of the stuff for this section I'll ask you to do by hand, but the histograms, to actually draw the histograms, we'll be doing that in StatCrunch. StatCrunch is a computing program that comes with MyStatLab, and so that's where we'll be generating the graphs. Alright, so let's take a look at this example here. Suppose we've got speeds of people driving in a 45 mile per hour zone. And these are the speeds of a data set that the police officer clocked people driving. Okay? So what we first want is the relative frequency distribution. What we're looking for with that is a table that looks like this, where we're going to divide the data up into categories. The categories like 35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45 to 49, etc. We'll talk about how to get that in just a minute. And then the frequency. The frequency just means how many people are in each category. So this means that we've got one person in the 35 to 39 group. 6 people were driving between 40 and 44 miles per hour, etc. The relative frequency is just the frequency out of 100%, written as a decimal. So this 0.04 comes from 1 out of 25. 0.24 comes from 6 out of 25. 7 out of 25, etc. Okay? Now let's talk about the class limits. For our purposes, I will tell you two things when I want you to make a distribution. I will tell you the lower limit, which in this case would be 35, and I'll tell you the class width, which in this case would be 5. So for this distribution here, the lower class limit means we start at this lower limit of 35. It means the first one starts at 35. A class width of 5 means that the next category above that is 5 above the previous one. And then we're increasing by 5 every time. So 35, 40, 45, 50. Now, you can probably see why we would not go up to 40 here. Well, we wouldn't go 35 to 40, 40 to 45. And that reason is that if we went 35 to 40 and 40 to 45, then somebody who was driving 40 miles per hour, we wouldn't know which of these two categories to put them in. So we always want to keep our categories just a little bit separate for that reason, so that we don't want them to overlap. Okay? So more on that in a minute, but you'll be asked to do this. I don't believe StatCrunch will do it for you. So I'll give you a lower limit, I'll give you a class width, and then you'll go through and generate this table. Okay? One thing I didn't mention here is it would not be incorrect for us to start at another place. There's a lot of different ways you can do histograms, but I like to start at a nice round number, and I like my widths to be nice round numbers. So while it wouldn't be incorrect to start at 38, if you're told to start at 35, then that's what you need to do, and you probably would be counted off if you didn't start at 35. So how do you decide what categories to use? A couple of things. You want to have somewhere between 5 and 10 categories. So you want to pick your categories that way. Also think about any statistical graph you look at. Usually you don't spend very long looking at it. Usually you just look at it for a couple of seconds, get a big picture view of what's going on, and then move on. So I like to use round numbers, like 35 and 5, instead of, 38 and 7. Okay? All right. Okay, so the histogram, and to see how this histogram is drawn, there'll be a video posted on how to do this in StatCrunch. This is what the histogram looks like. So you'll see 35 to 39, you've got 4%. 40 to 44, it's 24%. And you see that with the categories. So they take the distribution that they show you and they draw a histogram based on it. They're showing the categories here, relative frequencies up here. And from here, I would say this follows approximately a normal distribution. It's close enough, I would say, that it is. So a little bit more practice on creating categories, because this gives people some trouble sometimes. So if you're asked to create categories of width 10 that start at 50, you would want to have your first category starting at 50. Your second one would start at 60. Your third one would start at 70. And then you would go up till the next closest value. So you wouldn't go 50 to 60, you'd go 50 up to almost 60. All right? And then it would be the same thing if you're asked to create categories of width 20, starting at 500. Your categories would start at 500, 520, 540, etc. And then you'd go, your upper limits would be right up until the closest thing to the next category. All right, so you will want to watch the video on how to do this in StatCrunch. And again, always keep a big picture in mind, that the purpose of creating the histogram is to look at the distribution of the data. All right, so that's it.